What's up, Whackpack Eugenius here. Hope you're all well. This is Monsieur by Frederic Malle, of course, marketed towards men. And I know Frederic knows better because I don't think he really believes in the genderization of perfume. So I assume they just do it to appease the market. It's what the market wants and makes it easier for consumers. So from the fragrances in the men's Frederic Malle signature line, discluding the desert gems, so you've got Vetiver Extraordinaire, Geranium pour Monsieur, another Monsieur, and I myself almost believe, like French Lover, Angélique sous la pluie, Bigarade Concentré, and even Music for a while, traditionally lean masculine. This is by far the darkest of the bunch. And by dark, I mean black. This is just really smoky and butched elegance compared to what has traditionally been used to imply masculinity. Green, earthiness. So if you look at Vetiver Extraordinaire, which is probably another one that's really masculine, it really uses that green, earthy, spicy citruses and vetiver, very woody, very cedary, ashy, dry. They all, they're all really similar. You can almost group all those together. And this one kind of sits by itself off to the side, doing its own thing. When I smell Monsieur, to me, it's just, there's no greens or those, it's not as earthy as those other ones. To me, it's just very black and almost dark grays. Very smoky, leathery, spicy. It's all built around the note of patchouli, but it's not something that we've really seen like this before. This has been extracted and really cleaned up and refined. And from what I understand, it's been processed 4 times, really extracted from all those really crude elements 4 times. So it's almost like patchouli in its purest oil form. And it loses a little bit of its colors and textures. So we know patchouli's used, in a lot of traditional masculine perfumes. Here, I lose that brown color, that almost that texture. And I know Frederic Malle doesn't do a whole lot of advertising for his fragrances, but I have this image in my head. I remember seeing it with the release of Monsieur, and it was really just a picture of Frederic's tweed sports coat. So all you really saw was, the length of the arm from here onward, and it was a brown textured tweed coat, and you can see the buttons. It was obviously a men's jacket, and I can see what they're trying to do with that. They're trying to imply masculinity, colors, and textures. And yes, this is obviously a masculine leaning fragrance. I don't get the brown colors from this. It's just strictly black, really heavy black. The textures are still there. It's still got that abrasive, herbal, almost patchouli. I almost want to say it's missing the green leafiness and any other. I don't want to say it's earthless. There's a lot of earthy qualities, but it's not your photorealistic patchouli that we're so used to seeing. I mean, smelling or whatever it is. However you interpret perfume. I use both my eyes and my nose, or my imagination, really. But it's very refined, but it's elegant and it's butch. The patchouli itself isn't butch. The fragrance is butch, just from the use of all these other notes. A lot of tension in this fragrance, And by that I mean a lot of the notes are masculine, and they're all really jockeying for this dominance, this alpha position. So you got that rum accord, and there's a tangerine in here. I don't really find it that adds a whole lot of citrus. I think it really works with that rum. There's not a whole lot of freshness to this. It's all really heavy, dark base notes, and there's a really dark, smoky leather to this. Black. It's a black leather jacket is what it is. Smoke, incense, dry. It's dusty. There's almost this churchiness to this, and I relate a lot of patchouli themed fragrances to that church context. Dry, herbal, churchy, resinous, incensey. There's a bitter feature to this, and then you also got that smoked vanilla and that amber extreme synthetic base note, which isn't really, it's not what we traditionally know amber for. Amber is really, it's got that, like I like to say, golden hue to it, that golden powdery hue. This is a very dark amber, and if you come too close to this, if you inhale it too close, you're definitely going to notice the use of synthetics. If it's just wafting up at you, it's not going to bother you, but it's really the first time that I've noticed the heavier use of synthetics in Monsieur from this line. And I almost associated that with the sale of Frederic Malle to Louis Vuitton Malt Hennessy. The release right before this was the very delicate Eau de Magnolia, which was very natural smelling, citrus heavy, white floral. It's just, you can crater it in your hands. It was so soft like this. And then, the release right after was Monsieur, which is a sledgehammer of masculinity, very strong, very in tune with what we've seen Bruno Jovanovic do with Frederic Malle, also Dries Van Noten. So he's got a very bold and striking style, and that's obviously apparent in Monsieur as well. A huge saturation of rum. I'm not sure how I feel about that rum accord. I've never really been crazy about boozy accords in perfume, and it's got nothing to do with my beliefs. I just find it very non-traditional, but somehow it works in here. And that the booze works in unison with that vanilla, and really it kind of saturates, all the other notes and brings them together. But there's, it's very peppery. It's a very bitter patchouli. Wow. Very dry, dusty, and bitter is the best way I can, you can almost sense it's patchouli in very oily. It's got this very oily context to it. It's very cleaned up, it's modern, but it doesn't, the fragrance itself doesn't feel like it's been released today. It feels like something that's really been around for a long time. And even though it is modern, I get more, if I had to put a face to this perfume, it's to me more Maradona than it would be, let's say, I don't know, Ronaldo, a very clean, hairless Ronaldo. To me, this is, forgive me for this, but this is more hairy balls than it is a manicured man. There's a lot of testosterone going through this. It's refined and elegant, but yet it's coarse and abrasive, and manly. It's very manly. There's nothing soft or even humbling to it. But at the same time, it's not really a versatile perfume. It's more a dressed up, you know, just like that image that came with this fragrance of the sports coat. It's more of a dressed up and going out and meeting people for, you know, a serious event than it is for something that I use this for and sitting in my pajamas or wearing it in a machine shop. Just a very bold perfume. The first time I smelt this, I remember I felt almost a sense of disappointment because it was the first release under Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, and thinking, oh wow, this is not a typical Frederic Malle. This is more trend leaning. This is more, you know, stuff that we've seen. And images of Spice Bomb Extreme came to mind, and almost, I think it was Bulgari Man in Black. So very peppery, very smoky, very black leather is the first context that came to me, you know, just smelling it off of a blotter. But once I got to know it, it was like, okay, it's nothing like those at all. There's a whole lot more depth to this. But it's also one that I noticed almost this bold use of synthetics, and we're seeing that more and more. And that doesn't imply cheap use. You know, they're obviously high quality synthetics, but it's like they've taken out more of the natural beauty that we've seen in earlier releases, and doing that sort of thing. That's kind of how I feel after Monsieur was released. I also remember seeing or hearing a lot of talk of this being compared to Portrait of a Lady, and absolutely, I don't see any of that. Sure, there's patchouli in both of them, and there's smoke and incense, but Portrait of a Lady is, you know, red roses, fruity tooty, currants and stuff like that. It can get a little bit powdery, and it's much sweeter. I consider this much more bold, striking, and black. Portrait of a Lady's got, you know, it's got red and green tones to it. This, you know, absolutely nothing to do with Portrait of a Lady, or I don't even see it as Portrait of a Lady's male counterpart. It's just pure nonsense to me. Just a completely different fragrance. Sure, if you want to say they have patchouli in both of them, I'll agree to that. But for them to lean on each other and say one was inspired by the other is absolutely not. I don't see it. So that's just the way I feel. But anyway, there's my review of this bitter patchouli, very spicy, black, bold. Refined but butch at the same way. A really nice contrast to it. Something Frederic's really known for. Colors, textures, and contrast. Here the colors are, you know, I usually get several colors here. It's very smoky, black, tarry. I think I've actually compared this, or kind of put this in line with Patchouli 24 from Le Labo, and also Comme des Garçons Black. So it leans very similar to those two. That's the best way I would compare them, if I had to compare them to anything else, which I really like those as well. But all three are really unique enough to be different from each other. But yeah, it's my review of Monsieur, Mr. Butch. Anyway, if you've smelt this, let us know what you think down below in the comments. Share a comment. The more comments, the better experience it is for all of us viewers. Read all your comments. I appreciate them all. Drop a like if you like this video, and we will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.